Got a favorite youth ministry book? We posted on social media. What are your 5 top recommendations when it comes to youth ministry books? You're going to hear my 5 this week. Let's get started. This is the Youth Worker Daily. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Youth Worker Daily, where we hope to encourage youth workers like you with tools, tips, resources, and helps so that you thrive in your ministry. My name is Jay Hyam, and this week we're talking about books, youth ministry books, specifically the top 5. And when I think about top 5, I mean the books that when someone says, hey, what would be a good book for me to read to help me in my student ministry? What are your top go-to books? And I'm thinking 5 because that's a good even number, top 5. Top 10 is too long for a vlog, but top 5 is good. And I've got my top 5. We asked you on social media to share your top 5, and some of you have started doing that. And we're going to run that all week long because I really want to see what that looks like, who's reading what, and what are our favorite resources out there. But today I want to share with you the first of my 5 top recommended books for youth ministry workers. Now, when I think of my top 5, I'm thinking about when a new youth worker comes looking for resources and they say, hey, what would you recommend I start with? Where's the beginning of all of this? These are going to be the books that I recommend, the first 5. And so I got them with me today. They're not in any particular order, so don't try to read into this, but here are my top 5, and we're going to talk about them this week. And I'm actually going to start with one that I just recently read at the end of last year, moving into the beginning of this year, and kind of wrapped it up early on, I think in January or February. I'm a very slow reader, and I don't move very quickly through books. Plus, when I read books like this, I spend a lot of time actually reading and pulling them apart and trying to understand and grow and learn from what I'm reading. But the first book I want to talk about today is one that's been around for a long time. It was published back in, the first publishing was back in 2009. So it's been around for a while. And that is Youth, or Middle School Ministry. Right there, and it's by, we'll put up their names right here so you can see that right there. Boom, boom, Mark Ostreicher and Scott Rubin. Gosh, guys, I like this book a lot. I'm one of those youth workers that, for the most part of my ministry, I've kind of gravitated to the high school students because, I just like engaging high school students. I like having conversations with them. I like seeing them, kind of figure out life and begin to understand college and all that and moving forward. I love middle schoolers, but never really spent a lot of time, developing an understanding for middle schoolers until I read this. And this book changed how I began thinking about middle school ministry. In fact, it's now become like a redefining book for me as I think about ministry, both middle school and high school, based on what is in this book. Now, here's the thing about this particular book. Scott and Mark do an amazing job helping us understand the middle school mind. The first part of this book is all about understanding the transition that middle school students go through from that elementary departure as they begin moving into high school. It talks about what's going on in the brain. It talks about what's going on chemically. It talks about what's going on in the body. It deals with emotions. It deals with security and expectations. It moves from an understanding of how middle schoolers think, as elementary kids. It's very concrete. You tell them and they believe it, or you teach them something and it's pretty easy for them to get it. But when they're in middle school, they begin moving away from that concrete thought into more abstract thought. And this book really helps to bring some of the science and some of the stuff that's happening in our bodies and really puts it in ways that's easy for you to understand. Then the second part of this book is taking what we've learned about the middle schooler and his transition and applying it to how we can then begin to minister to and disciple middle schoolers. And one of the things about middle school ministry that kind of really changed for me because of this book is seeing that youth ministry really needs to start in our middle school ministry, not in our high school ministry. Let me say that in a different way. Discipleship, sharing our faith stories, giving theology, helping to work through doctrine. Like, those are things that we've often reserved for the high school ministry. This book is saying we need to begin thinking about that in our middle school ministry, because these kids are beginning to show that that's when those places of learning, that the opportunity for them to actually grasp something and wrestle with it, it's beginning more in those middle school years. And so totally has reshaped how I think about middle school ministry, to the point that I am more focused now on middle school ministry as a place of setting those foundational theological and doctrinal issues, as well as working a little more closely with middle schoolers as they transition from those elementary years up into the high school. Like, I'm spending more time and more focus on helping them develop those type of things. So my ministry is shifting a lot so that we focus on middle school and understanding middle school. Highly recommend this book if you are a youth worker who is starting with middle school ministry. This is a must read. You can see it's pretty thick. It's got a lot of content in there, but if you go through it and really dissect it and work to understand it, it's going to really, really help you in your thought processes, your planning, your teaching schedules when it comes to middle school ministry. And if you are a guy like me who's kind of like built his ministry on the high school, you might want to rethink how you interact with your middle school students. And I would suggest that you take this, that you read this, and begin to rethink how you see those students. It could completely change what your high school ministry looks like. Here I am in a new role in a new church, and one of the things that we're going to be looking really significantly and seriously at is applying some of this teaching to how I train my leaders and then how we shape our program moving forward. Because I want success for the students when they hit those high school and college years, and I think it really begins in the middle school years. And so we're going to be spending a lot of time rethinking middle school ministry and putting this book into practice. So middle school ministry, that's Marco and Scott Rubin. If you go to the Youth Worker Daily website, I have a link where you can purchase this from Amazon. It's available in both digital, so if you want to use like a Kindle or an e-reader, you can order it that way, or if you want to get a hard copy, you can get it this way. I actually read it first on my Kindle and liked it so much that I went and bought this so I can go back through it and highlight and make notes and use it for an easier teaching resource than the Kindle. So, guys, first book in my top 5, Middle School Ministry, Marco Scott Rubin. Go ahead and order this. I promise you it'll change how you think about middle school ministry, and it's a great resource to have on your bookshelf. Okay? So, hey, make sure you check in tomorrow. I've got 4 more books I'm going to reveal to you. Again, in no particular order, just sharing some resources that I have found to be incredibly valuable. So I want to hear from you, though. In the comments below, what are your top 5 books? What do you recommend when it comes to another youth worker asking, hey, I need some resources. I need to understand where to begin. Where do I go? I'd love to hear what books you're reading and what books you're recommending. Maybe we have the same books. Maybe we don't know. Hey, a couple quick things. Make sure you check out our website. You can go to theyouthworkerdaily.com, and there you'll find other copies of vlog posts just like this one, along with resources and some additional information about ministry, student ministry, and places where you can find really great stuff. This website's still young. It's in its early stages, but we are growing it, and it's going to be a great resource. I also want to give a quick shout out to our new ministry partners, and that is the Controlled Chaos blog. Now, some of you might know me from that. That is because I am the blog manager over there at the Controlled Chaos blog. And it is a blog that is written specifically for middle school youth workers. So it's written by middle school youth workers, for middle school youth workers, for middle school ministry. And we cover a ton of great topics and categories that are truly helpful for you. So I want you to go ahead and check that out. You'll see the address right about here. There it is right there. Okay. But you'll go to the controlledchaos.fun. Great resource there. And of course, don't forget to check out the podcast while you're there. Listen to Justin Herman and Kurt Johnston. Great resource for you there. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us today here on Youth Worker Daily. So make sure you are subscribing and ringing that little bell. That way you'll know tomorrow when the next video goes up. It'll come right into your inbox and you will be able to watch it. Hey, join the community with us. We are on Facebook. We are on Twitter. We are on Instagram. And you'll find us at Youth Worker Daily. That's YTH Worker Daily. All of it's the same, all three channels. So come follow along, join us. Guys, thanks so much for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with another book and another episode of the Youth Worker Daily. We'll see you then.